Welcome to Friends with Fertility, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of fertility, reproductive health, and all the emotional journeys that are in between. I'm your host, Elizabeth King, a fertility expert dedicated to providing you with the knowledge, support, and inspiration you need on your path to parenthood. Whether you're just starting out, exploring your options, or looking for solidarity and advice, we are here for you. Let's embark on this journey together and turn uncertainty into empowerment and make friends with fertility. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to Friends with Fertility. Today we have Dani Sheriff. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I appreciate it.
She is the go-to expert for women whose periods have vanished and no one can tell them why. After battling a hypothalamic amenorrhea,
Amen, Aurea.
amenorrhea herself, she reclaimed her cycle, got pregnant naturally, and turned her pain into purpose. Together with her team of specialized coaches at the HA Society, Dani has guided thousands of women through her Restore program and coach certification pathway, and her story has been featured on Fertility Friday and leading wellness shows. So I am so excited to talk about this because I also teach about this in our coaching certification. It's not something that people talk about very often, and are not even aware that there's a name to it, right? As you can tell, I struggle with the name every single time, no matter
Yeah.
what, that I talk about this. So tell us what led you to this path, what your story is.
Yeah. So, like many people these days, I had the problem that I help now people solve. So,
Right.
I was a amateur athlete for a long
Okay.
time. And so I say that because people think that missing periods is specific to elite level athletes,
Mm-hmm.
to gymnasts and sometimes gymnasts lose their periods, or women who like
Right.
swimmers who swim 5-6 days a week.
Ballerinas.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not true. It can happen to anyone who is really an avid exerciser.
Mm-hmm.
But seems to be a very strong connection with high control with food as well. So people who are in weight class sports or sports where, quote, I want to look the way that someone who does my sport should look. So this
Mm-hmm.
happens in runners, Olympic weightlifters, which was my
Yeah.
sport,
Yeah.
bodybuilders,
I've had a
anyone
lot of
who's
CrossFitters that have come to me
CrossFitters.
over the years. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. There's like a bit of a competitive theme to it for a lot of people. But yeah, generally speaking, we're exercising a lot, but we're also under eating.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just really common for women in general. And so that happened to me. I lost my period for about 7 years
And when you
before I did.
lost it initially, were you like, oh, no big deal?
Oh,
Or
yeah,
like,
yeah.
this is great, like, because now I don't have a period? Or was it even on your radar of like, this is something's
It,
different?
it was on my radar, but not only did I think, "Oh, like, that's convenient," but I was proud of it, which I think is
Okay.
interesting, right? I was proud of it. It means I'm working out hard enough.
Mm,
And I didn't actually realize at the time that there was long-term negative consequences to not producing any estrogen or any hormones at all.
right.
And I was becoming increasingly more neurotic, more particular, more anxiety, stress, and everything had to be in a specific way. I could not miss a workout. I could not eat
Hmm.
outside of my regimented way of eating.
Yeah.
And I was tracking macros, and I was eating very little fat. And I was eating lots of protein, but no fat, and moderate carbs, meanwhile doing all these workouts and going for a walk every morning and weighing and measuring everything that I eat, and my
Oh my
world
God. You're
had really.
like bringing back all kinds of memories, Dani, because that
Mhm.
was my life for so long.
Yeah,
And
it's so
I've been
common.
away for it for a long time that I haven't thought about it. And it was so, the things that I missed out on or didn't do because I couldn't eat properly if I went out or whatever. It's just like such a mind game. And
Exactly.
like, not to jump into your story, but it's actually triggering me right now because I'm like, oh my gosh, that's,
You were there.
it was so intense for so many years.
And you may have not completely lost your menstrual cycle, but most likely you were on what we call the HA spectrum. So this is a lot of people too. They might be like, I'm like that, but I get my period every month. okay, well, how's your luteal phase? How are your baseline temperatures? How, what are all of the parameters of your cycle looking like?
Mhm.
And unless they're hunky dory, you're on the spectrum probably. And so on that extreme side, you just completely lose the menstrual cycle, right? And this is really, really common. And I had to go through it without a lot of support. I couldn't find much on the internet. It took me a while to really understand that this is me. There wasn't support communities, there wasn't a lot of podcasts. And then I got to the end of the process, which was simple but difficult, very difficult. And I thought, wow, that was really hard. I think that there's a gap in a market that needs filling and that there's a
Mhm.
community that needs serving. And so that's how I really got into it.
Huge community that needs serving, because the irony is that you think that you're super healthy, right? And most, I
Yes.
won't say all, but most of the people that are in those circles are not actively trying to get pregnant at that moment, right? They're trying to hit
Yeah.
a weight loss goal, or they're trying to hit a personal record goal in those situations. So it's not
Mhm.
top of mind for fertility per se. Um, but yet, as you, even if, like you mentioned, even if you're not, your period hasn't stopped, so many other things are like disjointed and out of
Mhm.
sync is where they should be. And I feel really strongly with, in the United States, we have Division 1 sports in college even, and then those athletes usually go on to professional, etc. And then they're not even spoken about by their coaches of like, oh, you're on your period this week, maybe you should sit out, or you should work out less, or do whatever. It's like push hard all the time through the whole month, no matter what. And we have to start recognizing that it's not healthy to do that on so many levels, mentally, physically, fertility wise, etc. So I'm so glad we're having this conversation, because it's really something that I'm super passionate about, but there's really very narrow windows to have these conversations, because at the
Mhm.
bottom line, people don't want to hear it, because they want their athletes to win. They want their athletes to be where they want to be. And even if, like you say, you're an amateur athlete, you're still striving for your best. Like the
Mhm.
amount of things I had downloaded on my phone that I was tracking myself, even
Yep.
though I wasn't an elite athlete, but I
Honestly,
wouldn't miss a workout, and I wouldn't eat outside of what I was supposed to
yeah.
eat.
So the amateur athletes are almost appear to be more susceptible to HA. And look, maybe it's because there's just more amateur athletes than professional athletes, but there is some, I think, because they're doing it without any guidance,
Sure.
and it's a certain personality of woman that can push herself and can push herself without anyone else having expectations on them,
Hmm.
or but what's interesting about that is when you start to peel back the layers and you go, okay, I have a problem regardless of your goal. I don't care if you're trying to get pregnant or if you just realize that you're on the fast track to osteoporosis or something like that, whatever is your motivating factor.
I was just thinking though about all the nutritionists and personal trainers and everybody that I worked with throughout all those years. Nobody ever asked me about my cycle and what was
Yeah.
happening there. And to your point, like even if you are guided by celebrity trainers or celebrity nutritionists or whatever, nobody's asking you about your cycle and what's happening with you. They're just, again, counting the macros. What's your protein like? What's your, etc. And I think what I tell people who are actively trying to get pregnant, and obviously you're a step further than that. They have to have a cycle before they're getting that
Mhm.
to that place. But in regards to the workout, is if you're working out so hard because you're thinking that you're doing yourself a service, and your muscles are repairing itself every day because you're working out every morning or night or whatever it is, your
Yeah.
body is working overtime to repair itself every single day.
Yeah.
That's taking energy away from your reproductive system of where we really want your body to be. Yes, I'm not, we still need to work out and whatever, but during that critical time, you want to change your workout. You want to, adjust to your body really serving its purpose during that time. So let's back up again to somebody who doesn't have their period, hasn't had their period for a while, whether it's from working out or not. Where do they start to figure out, how do I get this back on track? How do I make this appear again?
Yeah. Well, that's what's nice about this is it's not a syndrome or a disease or a dysfunction necessarily. It's
Hmm.
actually a process of the body that makes a lot of sense, right? Everything you just explained, there's a lot going on in the body, and you don't have enough fuel and rest to
Right.
function all of those things. So it's as simple as reversing out of that and making sure you do have enough fuel and rest. So sounds simple, but is really hard for our population because your number one goal has been to strive to succeed at, athletics and looking a certain way, and also values eating in a quote healthy way. So we don't necessarily say like you now just need to become this unhealthy couch potato, but there's certainly an aspect where you may need to sit down and rest for a bit and
Yeah.
step
Which is
into your
really hard for
feminine.
people who are used to having a certain type of workout. So
Oh
I'm not
yeah.
saying that that's not easy, because that's a mental game itself. But I
Mhm.
always tell people it's a short period of time, right? Let's just get through this time where you're trying to have a baby and keep that baby, meaning we want that to be a live birth.
Mhm.
And know that that is the goal right now, right? It's like you're
Yeah.
just changing you're shifting your
Yes.
end goal during this period of time.
Exactly.
You can get back to working out and watching your food like a maniac if you want to, but right now your situation is going to be different. That is the homework, and that seems really passive for people who are so used to being the other way.
Yeah, being just super go, 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 and
Hmm.
really, even realizing it and seeing it for what it is particularly difficult. Like, people have a hard time self-reflecting and thinking, like, admitting to themselves that they're overdoing it.
Right.
Yeah, and so they'll back off a little bit. You might maybe I'll run a little bit less. Maybe I'll eat a little bit more,
Hmm.
which is to some people called quasi recovery, or we call playing the how low can I go game, meaning how can I make changes towards recovery, but make the smallest possible changes and
Hmm.
hopefully elicit the maximum response, which just never really works. And so there's a whole like rediscovery and reflection process of really relearning what is too much, and what is this interesting skewed perspective you have of like what a woman should be doing. And people tend to realize, which is a strange realization for a lot of us, that everything you've been doing is actually in direct conflict with your goals. You've been trying to get more healthy, and in that process you've made yourself less healthy. You've
Hmm.
been trying to have a baby, but you're doing behaviors like trying to train for a triathlon, that's just like in conflict with the goal you're at right now. And I think what has happened is women are led to believe, and look, maybe this is meant to, but women are led to believe that we should be all things all the time for everyone, right? High achieving, successful career, fit, beautiful, perfect mother, perfect daughter, perfect spouse, and beautiful home and all the things all at once. And we're not really used to being told like there's seasons and it's okay to rest and it's okay to achieve less. And this is one of the first times in a lot of people's life where their body's giving them a really loud signal that says, you cannot do everything at once. You cannot be at the top of your athletic game and have maximal fertility all the time. Like it's not easy to do all those things.
And I think they'll find that one person online that's like 9 months
Oh,
pregnant who's like
100%.
lifting heavy weight or doing whatever, and they'll be like, well, she continued to do it, so it's okay. And there, I just say this all the time, you can't self-diagnose based on somebody else's situation. And it's the same here. If your body is signaling to you that something is off, you got to listen to that,
Mhm.
regardless of what Susie Q's doing online or down the street or whatever. Like, clearly that's not working for you. And so you need to self evaluate your situation. And I would even say, too, why do you feel the need for that? Like, that's the deeper work, is where is this stemming from? Where in your childhood or whatever did something come up where you felt that you had to be such an overachiever, or count every
Mhm.
calorie, or do all those things, because that's really the bigger issue that needs to be addressed.
Mhm.
And the secondary part is working through, okay, what does that look like on a day-to-day basis in order to get pregnant?
Yeah.
Um, for people that are not heavy worker outers,
Mm.
what's the right word for that, but still don't have a period, what do you suggest for them if they're like, well, my excuse, I don't work out every day, I go for a walk or whatever, but I still don't have my period and I haven't had it for a long time?
Mm.
What do you suggest for them, because there seemingly isn't those easier things to reverse as
Yeah.
far as like slowing down and or eating more?
I will share it's actually really rare to come across someone who's like basically doing no exercise but has amenorrhea. And there have been research studies that have concluded that some combination of under eating, over exercising, and stress, like two of the three have to always be there. And we less commonly come across someone who's stressed their period away. So, what that would probably be is a lot of under eating. And it could look like intermittent fasting. So maybe you don't do a whole lot of exercise, maybe you do a lot of walking. Because walking can definitely, you can overdo walking. And if you're getting up like 5 a.m., getting multi-mile walk in, and then coming home and just having coffee, or not, not eating until lunch, like that's something to look at. So meal timing, are you eating right away in the morning? Is it a full breakfast? Are you having all of the macronutrients? Are you really feeding yourself? To lose your cycle without having exercise in the picture is probably a massive under eating issue. And maybe you eat a lot of calories in the day, but maybe you undulate those calories. Or maybe you really just eat, maybe you say, I don't do a lot of exercise, so I'm only going to eat 1,200 calories. Well, then that's probably not enough, even just for you to be like awake during the day, right? So I would look straight to food if exercise isn't a factor.
And I think everybody, again, is different. So
Mhm.
you want to look at yourself of 1,200 calories may be enough for me, but not for you. And so we we go by these government regulated diet suggestions, but that's not necessarily what's good for
Yeah,
everybody.
totally.
So same thing with fruits and vegetables and different types of meat and proteins and whatever. You need to
Mhm.
figure out what works for your body in
Specific.
order to function optimally. And it's not a one size fits all thing. And you can get your nutrients and all the things in different ways. So, for example, I don't eat fish because I have sensitivity to it, but most people would be like, oh, that's the perfect lean thing to eat to get
Mhm.
protein. That's not for me. And if I was trying to get pregnant, I cannot do that, or eggs, because it's super inflammatory for me. And it just it doesn't go well for my body. So I just want to emphasize figuring out what's right for you with all the factors in play for trying to get pregnant, right? We want to keep the inflammation down. We want to make sure that you are regulating the amount that you exercise, because it is important to move your body. And so, how do you suggest for people who are trying to find that balance? What what is that kind of baseline of starting point, so they're not doing too much and they're not doing too little, knowing that there's a spectrum, right, that people need to know, that
Yeah.
it's not one size fits all? What does that look like?
Yeah, it can be a journey to find when it's been a long time of being super far in one direction. So we use the fertility awareness method as a tool, as a diagnostic tool. So even if you don't have a period, when you begin trying to get it back, charting can be really helpful because, to your point, you can't look at someone else and exactly what they're doing and just copy it. Could work, but will not work for absolutely everyone. And you might hear the number 2,500 calories gets your period back, but it's not true for everyone. So when we use the charting, we can identify someone's baseline temperatures. For example, the first thing we do, and I'm sure many of your listeners do cycle charting. So if your baseline temperatures are too low, I already know you're not eating enough. And so the answer there is eat more. And it doesn't, if you have sensitivities, fine, eat the things you can eat. We should be able to see that rise. And then obviously naturally you start approaching ovulation. So are you seeing cervical mucus? Yes or no? If no, you're not eating enough, right? So I don't care what Sally Lou next to you is eating to get her cycle. If your hormones are still low, if your baselines are low, if you're not producing cervical mucus, then you're not eating enough. Your body is saying this to you, right? Charting is like body literacy. Your body is giving you data to back up that you're not eating. You don't have to guess. You don't have to wonder. It's objectively right in front of you. And we see this when women start eating it more and eating enough, the baseline temperatures go up, the cervical mucus starts to appear, and they get to start making these connections. Oh, wow, that really happened. When I upped my calories by 300, by 400, my body responded within days, and now this is happening. And it's like you can't ignore that. So you get to trial and error with yourself and get this feedback in real time, which I find very valuable, and so do my clients, because it takes a while to just get the period, right? And if you're just like eating more and hoping to wake up one day with a period, that's just a little bit harder to reflect on and glean, like, well, where am I at? What's working? What's moving the needle? What direction should I keep going down? So I like charting for women without cycles. Just see, are you in the healthy parameters? Is your temperature 97.4 and above? If it's low, you need more food, you need more rest, you need whatever, and use that as your guide versus like what other people are doing. Or
What's the average time that it usually takes people, like how many cycle, or I guess if they're not having a cycle, how many
Mm,
months does it
yeah,
normally take for people to see some, well, see a period come back?
yeah, 2 to
Because
4.
that's really what
Sorry,
we're hoping for, right?
exactly. Yeah, 2 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
3 months being our average. Yeah, somewhere in that 2 to 4 range. And it just really depends, like, how low your hormones got. Because some people still have, follicles on their ovaries, and so once you start eating enough, that process of maturation can kind of kick off really quickly, where some people have had HA for a long time and there's nothing on their ovaries, and they've even shrunk a little bit, and so um that proliferation process has to start again, and that can take a little longer. So but at the end of the day, like, no matter where you're at, we've seen people with HA for 20 years recover in 6 weeks. So everyone's body's a little bit different like that as well. And some people are seeing cervical mucus all throughout their amenorrhea, and some people are seeing none. So we've seen it in 1 month. Like, the body's always trying to ovulate, which is cool.
And the one thing I love about charting as well. So let's say somebody does get it back in a month, and then but they're still not having the cycle with the luteal phase and the
Mhm.
length of what those are. Those are also really important to pay attention to, because you want your egg health to be good, right?
Yeah,
So
it's not
we want,
enough to just bleed. You need
right.
you need to ovulate, and it needs
We
to
want
be.
the egg to be healthy. We want you to have a
Mhm.
live pregnancy. So getting pregnant and miscarrying, we don't want that to
Yeah,
happen. And so tracking your cycle and getting that data really helps you to know, okay, this should be at a healthy stage based on the time. And again, it's different. You don't have to have a 28-day cycle, but somewhere around that window is going to be where you want to be, and see, like Dani's saying, that cervical mucus and the temperature changing and all of those things that will say, okay, I ovulated this month and I'm within the window that these eggs should be right where they need to be. And I think most people just think, oh, I have a period, we're good to go now. And that's part of it, but certainly not all of it.
yeah,
And that's really not spoken about very often, is that LH phase and what that means and why it's so important. So I just wanted to add that in. But I agree with you. Tracking is so helpful on so many levels. I mean, as we know, we can do whole podcasts just on that. But um, that's great news, though. 2 to 4 months, that's really promising for people to
oh
be
yeah,
able to see a difference.
yeah. This
So,
is a quick turnaround.
what advice do you suggest for somebody who's, listening to this and thinking they don't necessarily want to have kids in 2 months, but they know that somewhere down the line, sooner rather than later, they want to start?
Okay, specifically for having kids, and you don't have a menstrual cycle, you're gonna want to get on it ASAP, because it takes the average couple 3 months, 3 cycles to try. You don't even have one, so do the math. right? You got to get on top of this ASAP. And unfortunately, it's difficult for people to take action when they don't have that tangible goal that actually gives you a lot of external validation, like getting pregnant and having a baby. And so when you're having to do this just for yourself, it's easy to ignore. So honestly, if you're at ground zero, I think you need to just begin the research process. People need to, because I've just seen this so many times. I can't convince someone to recover off of them hearing about it for the first time. They always have to go through the deep dive research process. So go out there and learn about HA and learn about the consequences and learn about the process of recovering it, of your cycle, and reflect on your lifestyle behaviors and how you are likely exercising too much or under eating or both, and just start coming to terms with it is step one, because this is a process that has a grieving, an acceptance, an anger, all of those different phases happen. And I think you just need to kind of start learning about it and thinking about how this, like, why this is showing up for you. What are your behaviors? And then typically you'll go, either you'll figure it out for yourself, or you'll find the practitioner for you, like us, or the community for you, or, the podcast for you. And it will usually help you on the way. So the beautiful, beautiful thing is HA is straightforward. So this is not like many other fertility journeys. This is generally not something that should take up a huge deal of your life. If you can just get it done, you can get back to your exercise and your sport, and you can get back to all that. You just kind of need to stop, drop, and roll. Get it done, and you'll be fine.
And I think keeping your eye on the prize again, like what is the goal? What do I need to do? Do I
Mhm.
want this more than that, right? Do I want to build my family more than I want to be able to lift curl 35-pound dumbbells, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Or whatever it is, like,
yeah,
and putting it into that perspective. And also know that it's probably not going to be easy, as far as like, you probably will feel a little bit weird once you do get pregnant, you start gaining weight and whatever, but that will change too.
yeah.
Well, thank you for being here, Dani. Where can people find you and work with you?
Yeah, guys, just come learn at the Hypothalamic Amenorrhea podcast. Have a go at typing it into Google. You'll find your way there. And we're the HA Society on Instagram. And it's just a great place to start like learning about it and hearing yourself in other people's stories. Because I get people to share a lot of their HA stories. So if you're at all like, I think this is me, I don't know, maybe, that's a great place to go and just see if you can connect.
Amazing. You're not alone in this. There's a lot of other women that are going
Mhm.
through it. So thanks for being here and sharing your story and
Yeah.
helping to educate us all on this situation.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Friends with Fertility. We hope that you found the stories, insights, and tips as inspiring and informative as we did. Remember, you are not alone on this journey. Your friends with fertility are here for you. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to follow us on social media for updates and more fertility resources. Until next time, stay hopeful and keep believing in your journey, and know that we are sending you lots of love.